Welcome to Second Sunday, presented by West Falmouth Quaker Meetings, Peace and Social Order Committee, which I'm clerk of. Our speaker today, which is June 12th, 2022, is Gail Melix, and she is on the board of directors of the Native Land Conservancy. She's a Manomet Wampanoag and a Sandwich Meeting Quaker. She is clerk of the New England Yearly Meeting-Earthcare Ministry and co-clerk of Ministry and Counsel. And today her talk is about the Native Land Conservancy, the first Indigenous-led land rescue and preservation conservancy this side of the Mississippi. A little bit about the Native-run Conservancy, founded in 2012. It's a native-run land conservation group with a mission to preserve healthy landscapes for all living things and help restore land back to its original state wherever possible. They draw upon the collective traditional cultural knowledge as Indigenous people with generations of direct experience in the woodlands and the coastlines and waterways of New England. We presently have the honor of receiving guidance from two land conservation champions serving as advisors, Mark Robinson, the Compact of Cape Cod Conservation Trust, Inc., and Kris Clark of the Barnstable Land Trust. We acknowledge as West Falmouth Quakers that we're on Wampanoag land, specifically I'm in Mashpee Wampanoag land. And I'd like just to tell you that questions may be put into chat and then we'll answer those afterwards. And that YouTube attendees cannot ask questions. It's not that technology. And that Second Sunday is filmed and then edited and posted with the speaker's permission and posted on the West Falmouth Quaker Meetings Facebook site. With that, I give you Gail Melix. Thank you for very, very much.
Thank you, Erica Adams, for the invite and the introduction. Brenda Nolan and Clyde Tyndale for your IT assistance, and all those gathered here for taking the time to attend this presentation. I'm just so pleased, and it's especially warming for me to know that people from both my faith communities are here, both Indigenous friends and Quakers. I'd like to just have a moment, a very quick moment of silence, if we could just do this to center before we begin. I'm excited to have this opportunity to talk about Native Land Conservancy, NLC. I'm speaking for everyone on our board of directors when I say that we are passionate about land rescue and preservation. This is the work of many hands and much joy goes along with it. Native Land Conservancy was founded in 2012 in Mashpee, Massachusetts, and is the first native-run land conservation group east of the Mississippi. After centuries of hardship and economic struggle, it is only now that we can finally attend to the important work of protecting sacred spaces, habitat areas for our winged and four-legged neighbors, and other essential ecosystem resources to benefit Mother Earth and all human beings. All land is sacred in our eyes and worthy of special care. Thus, our reasons and interest in rescuing and preserving ancient ancestral village sites where our ancestors once lived and worked. In recognition of shared values, we enjoy the partnerships with our other local and regional land conservancies. And although Erica did mention this, I'd like to mention it again. We presently have the honor of receiving guidance from two land conservation champions who serve as our advisors, Mark Robinson of the Compact of Cape Cod Conservation Trust and Kris Clark of the Barnstable Land Trust. Um, Ayoyank Wachamak means protected place in the Wampanoag language. This is a photo taken at Wampanoag Common Lands in Kingston, Mass. This is one of our land holdings. And I'll be talking more about this particular land later, but for now, this concept of protecting what we love, our earth, is a long-standing practice for us. Traditionally, Indigenous people are community-focused. Everything is seen from the lens of what is best for your community first, not for the individual person. It's about the community first. And the community includes all life forms. For many natives, spirituality is earth-based and intimately connected to the beauty of creation and creator. And here's our mission statement. And I'm going to have to move this to read it. I hope it stays over here. Let's see. The Native Land Conservancy is a Native American-run land conservation group with a mission to preserve healthy landscapes for all living things and help restore land back to its original state wherever that's possible. We draw upon our collective traditional cultural knowledge with generations of direct experience in the woodlands, the coastlines, waterways of our ancestral homelands. NLC board members, here we are. And being an Indigenous-run organization ensures that NLC continues to be directed by Native values of intentional, respectful relationship with Mother Earth. And we, among us all, we have 5 different tribal groups on our board. And we have information in bios. And if you go on our website, you can find out more about our board members there. But it's a wonderful group to work with. We work very well together. In August of 2021, we hired our first staff member, Deanna Ruiz, who has a PhD in ecology. Her family is from Mexico. She is our first director and a valuable addition to our organization. And she's down here on the bottom. You can see her standing next to the sign, NLC staff. We recently acquired our first office space located in Mashpee. And Diana created the slides for this presentation, so I want to make sure I give her that credit. She worked very hard on that. Our NLC founder and chair, Ramona Peters, also known as Nopasaket, is an elder and traditional family member of the Bear Clan, Mashpee Wampanoag tribe. She believes we cannot experience harmony in this world without being genuinely connected to the earth, and I quote her, "Everywhere we look, we witness the awe of creation. When we open up our full consciousness to earth, we are met with her supreme intelligence, utter compassion, and innumerable dimensions of awareness and capacity. Most Wampanoag ceremonial practices are expressions of our unconditional love and respect for her. Our Mother Earth feeds us in every way. She can restore us to the natural state of being when we find ourselves disconnected and out of balance." Our NLC Vice Chair, Leslie Jonas, is a traditional family member of the Eel Clan, Mashpee Wampanoag tribe. In her words, "We Indigenous are grateful for the land, language, and for ancient knowledge, the wisdom that is passed down to us through oral tradition, ancient stories told by the ancestors. Storytelling is one of the powerful ways the history of the tradition is kept alive. We are grateful for community and one another as keepers, the stewards of the land." and Indigenous have been the stewards of the land for 12,000 years. Information pertaining to the board can be found on our website, along with our 4 seasons newsletter at nativelandconservancy.org. So now we're going to start. We have some maps here that kind of show the different ways that we have relationships with land. You know, some of the land we own, some of it we have a conservation restriction, it's called, and we're the holders of that for other people, or they are for us, so we're affiliated that way. And then there are cultural easements, which I'll talk about, respect easements, which is another way to share land, bequeathments. But this first one is about the land that we own. So here's Cape Cod and part of Massachusetts here. And what we have right now, we focus on land rescue close to home, and this map shows the land that we protect through various means. The green. In the green, you will see the land that we own, land acquired through donation or purchase. And right now, that's a total of 64 acres in Massachusetts that we own. And this includes Dorchester Brook in Easton, Wampanoag Common Lands in Kingston, the Wakeby Islands in Mashpee, Tall Pines in Barnstable, the Mills Preserve in Mashpee, the Simpkins Bog in Yarmouth, and we have a land ownership that is pending in Aquina. That's Martha's Vineyard. And this is the most wonderful place. The Wampanoag Common Lands is just idyllic. I just get so excited every time we get to go up there and steward or walk around or celebrate. We just had a celebration. The Wampanoag Common Lands is also recognized as having historic and cultural significance, and it's subject to regulation under the Massachusetts Endangered Species Act. It's dominated mostly by white and black pine, many white and red oaks, and several species listed as critically endangered, like the rare Plymouth gentian. And there's that little flower. That's the little rare thing that we have. The NLC will make sure that this rare beauty is not only protected, but flourishes again in its home environment. The Wampanoag Common Lands provides a connection to ancestral homelands and a place to revitalize traditional practices. It is located not far from the place of first contact with European colonists in Patuxet, otherwise known as Plymouth, but firstly known as Patuxet. We celebrated Wampanoag Common Lands Homecoming Days on June 5th by gathering to greet and explore the land, celebrate its return to native guardianship, and heal it by planting native plants and removing debris with family and friends. So this little pile is some saplings, some white oak, and you can see people are planting the white oak, and you can see how beautiful this lake is. And the trails there are amazing too. All right, let's see. Now this map shows the bequeathments. There's 2. There's the Schwartz residence, and then there's the Simpson Cottage. And Craig Simpson, I want to talk a little bit about him because he is just an amazing person. Here he is. Craig Simpson is a retired teacher, as was his mother, and he has a long history of being active in social justice work, protesting the Minnesota pipeline and protecting pine barrens are 2 that he is currently involved in. Craig wanted to do something meaningful for the Wampanoag community, and he used his home to do this. Initially, his home and land were bequeathed, but he decided he did not want to wait until he died to give us his house and land. And we had a wonderful celebration. It was just a month and a half ago on the property. And this is Leslie Jonas, the vice chair, and she's giving Craig a beautiful vase that Ramona Peters does pottery, and it was just a remarkable piece. He was so excited by it. And Ramona had this to say: Craig Simpson is the kind of guy I had hoped exists in this crazy world. He gave land back to Native people with loving commitment of friendship. This bolo tie that he has on has a turtle motif in the center representing Turtle Island, this continent. It is circled in braided sweet grass that creates purity and sanctity. We will treat his land gift like sweet grass by preserving its sanctity in perpetuity. His gift to us has more meaning than we can express. So conservation restriction and pending conservation restriction. A conservation restriction is a partnership where a landowner voluntarily gives up development rights to protect their land in perpetuity. The conservation restriction holder monitors the land annually to make sure the terms are honored. There are tax benefits to landowners and conservation restrictions. So this is something, and I never knew anything about this until I started with NLC. I didn't know about this, and I certainly didn't know about the cultural respect easements, which we'll learn more about. NLC land type, cultural respect easement, and the triangle is pending cultural respect easement. So we do have a few of those. Muddy Pond Wilderness is pending. And I'm going to be talking about these other ones. I'm going to be talking all about this later on in the presentation. So, cultural respect easements. So what this is a tool for cultural access so that Indigenous people can come onto their ancestral land. And it's a legal document. It's a partnership of respect, and it's in perpetuity. So that when you sell your land, I mean, it goes along with the land. It's part of the land. And it's a way that people can share, they can share the ancestral homeland with natives. And, it really seems to be picking up quite a bit. I've noticed since I've been on the board. People are getting excited about being able to do this. It's a sign of respect too. In the orange, you can see there's 660 acres that we have cultural respect easements on. That's a lot of acreage. A lot of it is in Dennis. The NLC strives to provide safe and clean places in our community to connect in good ways with the earth and each other. One way to do this is by making cultural respect easements with families, towns, and land conservancies. So they can be done on private property, a whole town, or land conservancies. CREs inspire local oral traditions to preserve the land's stories. These places and stories have intrinsic value to local Indigenous cultures. There may be renewable, yet hard to find natural resources or culturally significant sites on your property you don't even know about. We ask to be granted access to these special resources with our commitment of utmost respect for your property. So we do have a cultural respect easement with the Dennis Conservation Land Trust, and this was a 2016 signing ceremony. See Ramona's there and Mark Robinson, and I see Carol Wynn and Charmin from the board. This was a very special time for us. This is the first time we had ever done this. And we have a very close relationship with Mark and his land trust. Cultural respect easement. This is Nemasket, the Nemasket River. Ancient Wampanoag Village. The NLC partnered with the town of Middleborough and the Archaeological Conservancy to purchase 20.335 acres in Middleborough at J. Marr Farm, now known as the Nemasket River Village. The significance of this ancient village is spiritually, historically, and culturally important, and is the only intact village of its kind in Massachusetts. 56,000 artifacts have been recovered, date back to roughly 7,500 years ago. The Nemasket River flows along the southern boundaries of the former village. Archaeologists found evidence of some 73 dwellings at this site. You can see the weed tubes that are, I don't know how well you can see them, but they're there. The NLC is proud to offer the highest level of protection for this significant place. This is one of the ways to honor the ancestors. So the other thing is having cultural access to the land. So cultural access to the land, and this goes along with having an easement where tribal indigenous people can go, and this is a weed tube, a Wampanoag, a hut, a home. I'm sure by now most people have seen a weed tube. And then there's the Mishoon, a Wampanoag canoe. And that's really interesting. It's from a felled tree, and I saw one burn out. At one point, I saw the process of getting that inside burned out. It was just fascinating. And then, of course, education, to have our young adults and kids able to come to land and get educated and the interpretations sometimes that happen, and weaving and drumming, and not just being out in the woods. This is so important. So the cultural respect easements are a tool for cultural access. They're a legal document, a partnership of respect, and in perpetuity. Also here would be harvesting plants, making bulrush mats that go inside of the weetu, harvesting milkweed for medicinal and craft making purposes. I just learned recently that we used the milkweed is a fiber, and you can actually make belts. You can make things out of it. You can weave with milkweed. I never knew that. I knew it was medicinal, but. And then also access to land provides places to have ceremony. The significance of this ancient village is spiritually, historically, and culturally important, and is the only intact village of its kind in Massachusetts. The 56,000 artifacts that have been recovered date back to roughly 7,500 years ago. The Nemasket River flows along the southern boundaries of the former village. Archaeologists found evidence of some 73 dwellings, and the NLC is proud to offer the highest level of protection to this significant place. During the 1600s, the Nemasket Wampanoag villages hosted English pilgrims on their way to and from visits with Wampanoag, Massasoit, or Samaquin, who affirmed 50 years of peace with the English settlers. Cultural respect, we're still on that. The CRE allows traditional spiritual ceremonies, seasonal celebrations, offerings, and with notice, camping, fires, cultural education, and interpretation. What is prohibited is hunting, trapping, and cutting of trees or vegetation without written consent. I wanted to talk a little bit about what does cultural education and interpretation mean. I don't think a lot of people know what that means. This is an approach in which teaching and learning happen based on the values, norms, beliefs, and practices that are the foundation of any culture. What are the examples of culture? Customs, laws, dress, architectural style, social standards, and traditional values. Those are all examples of cultural elements. that Indigenous people might have. So you're talking about norms that are informal, unwritten rules that govern social behavior. You're talking about languages, festivals, rituals, ceremony, holidays, pastime, food, architecture, all these things play into it. So why do we need to interpret the culture? Because it promotes understanding. Lots of problems can arise from misunderstandings, especially because we live in a multicultural world. By learning and understanding different cultures, you understand why people do the things the way they do. And when you identify with other people, you sympathize with their situation and perhaps even empathize. First and foremost, entering into a cultural respect easement with the Native Land Conservancy makes the noble statement that your organization honors and respects the cultural continuance of Indigenous people. This also rekindles Indigenous connectedness to their ancestral homelands that has been lying dormant for centuries. Land absorbs history, yet most of our American folklore that is embedded in the earth is being lost. Many local conservation areas hold such untold legacies. Indigenous people of this country have oral histories of events, including perhaps even phenomena that have happened on the land. For example, there's a place in Cotuit, Mass, where a Wampanoag Massasoit and his wife were standing when they witnessed a lightning bolt spin a circle in the sky. The clay ponds of Truro, where for thousands of years Indigenous potters gathered and processed clay to make cooking pots, pipes, and smaller vessels, that was culturally significant too. Just as the West Barnstable clay pits. The Barnstable Brick Company fired bricks for about 30 profitable years before the clay pits were flooded by a poorly placed well. Clay ponds and quartz outcrops are unique natural land features that would be considered cultural resources by Indigenous people. Cultural resources are determined by several characteristics, such as scarcity, value to the Indigenous lifeways, and sometimes classified as sacred. We are currently partnering with the Mattapoisett Friends meeting to enter into a CRE with them. This would be our first Quaker meeting. And I think I have a picture of that. Yeah, there's a picture of it. We're on their grounds, and let's see, I went up and Leslie, and there's Rachel Carey Harper and friends from the Mattapoisett meeting, and they're very excited to be able to do this. So we'll see. And interestingly enough, there are either three or four natives that are buried in their cemetery, but they've spoken with us about it, and I'm not sure what's going to happen with that. But I know that sometimes people come and do ceremony here. They do ceremony. So I'm going to talk about our other properties now. Our first land donation in Centerville, made by Norman Hayes and his family, holds a deep, special, significant meaning to the NLC. This 1.4 acre pine oak forest is filled with American holly, American beech, pitch, and white pines, and black and white oaks. Walking this special place on certain days, one might witness fox dens and lady slippers. This first land donation made to the NLC in 2015 set the tone for the beginning of a long and rewarding relationship with another Cape Land Trust, the Barnstable Land Trust, who holds the conservation restriction on that parcel. In the deed to the property, a quote from Norman Hayes' father, Stephen Hayes, a founder of the Barnstable Land Trust, was translated into Wampanoag language, and the translated passage says, "Take care of the land, and the land will take care of you." And the next one The Wakeby Islands, called Cleveland, Jefferson, and Keith, 2.61 acres. They're very small islands, but they're delightful to go see. We were very lucky that Andrew Gottlieb has a boat on his property. He's the Association for the Preservation of Cape Cod director, and he took us around, and so we could steward the land, we could check things out, and that was a fun trip. The Lipnowski family of Mashpee graciously donated 3 islands in the Wakeby Pond in Mashpee to the NLC in 2019. The trustees of reservations holds a conservation restriction on the small islands to ensure perpetual preservation. The 3 Wakeby Islands hold special meaning to the NLC because Wakeby Pond is considered sacred to Wampanoag people as part of the spawning grounds for river heron and alewives descending from the Mashpee River. Wakeby in Wampanoag language is Wakeby, meaning moving water, as in churned up or stirred up water. Wakeby Pond has been known to have an unusual current, moving much differently than the typical motion of Cape Cod pond water. And I just love that I, haven't started to really study the Wampanoag language. I hope to someday. But the fact that water has so many different names and it all has to do with the motion it's in or what it's doing. I think that is just the neatest thing, because it's almost like giving water a personality. It's giving the water an identity, sort of making it equal to people. We have different names, and why shouldn't water? So Wakeby and the Wampanoag, during the 1800s, notable fishermen came to Wakeby Pond, including President Grover Cleveland and actor Joseph Jefferson, with 2 of the islands named after them. All of the islands are in view of Manomet Point, a small peninsula that extends into Wakeby Pond. The land contributes to the protection of the scenic and natural character of the Mashpee Pond-Wakeby Pond complex. They are all dominated by maple and beech trees, quite glorious in the fall. And next, this is Easton. We have 14.4 acres in Easton. The Wampanoag Nation's homelands cover large areas of Massachusetts. The Wampanoag people have lived on Cape Cod and the islands, west to the Blackstone River, north to the Merrimack River, and south down into the eastern Rhode Island for thousands of years and still today. In 2020, Elliott Snyder donated the 14.4 acres of floodplain forest on Dorchester Brook in Easton, Mass. To the NLC. And recently, NLC board members Kitty Hendricks, Marlene Lopez, Ramona Peters, and Leslie Jonas visited the beautiful property. Large white pines, holly, beech, and oaks are tucked throughout. We always have to talk about the trees. We're all just crazy about trees. So we have to let you know all the different kinds that are there. There are paths leading to vernal pools and some gently guiding us to rocky outcrop where in centuries past, Wampanoag chiefs might have met with their councils. It was from this knoll where Marlene Lopez and Leslie Jonas made offerings of tobacco and sang a song in gratitude for this land gift, our first in Bristol County. We are truly grateful to rescue and steward this land and thank Mr. Snyder for his generous gift. The NLC will protect this beautiful land to fulfill our mission to preserve the best natural, cultural, and scenic features of her in perpetuity. 10.8 acres in Yarmouth at the Rivero land that we were given. The NLC is over the moon grateful for the beautiful and generous land donation made to us by Jacqueline Rivero of Yarmouth, with the Yarmouth Conservation Trust holding the conservation restriction. Jackie inherited the Simpkins Bog from her uncle, Emmanuel de Tiperio. It serves as most of the headwaters of White's Brook, the major freshwater tributary to Chase Garden Creek in Yarmouth and Dennis. In the 1960s, some engineers dreamed of making a new Cape Cod Canal to connect Cape Cod Bay to Nantucket Sound by connecting White's Brook and Bass River. So they were considering doing that. Of course, it didn't happen. We know where the canal is now. The bog production probably began at the height of the Cape Cod cranberry fever in the 1870s and ended soon after the 1959 cranberry scare, when many small bogs went out of production. But the geology map of 1962 showed that the Simpkins Bog was still producing cranberries at that time. Now it's completely overgrown. The former owner, Jack Riverio, wanted to ensure the land was given back to its original inhabitants and not developed. This was made clear as we walked the land and spent time getting to know this magical place. Paths and trails pushed us further and further into the pristine woods, where we found a natural stream of water, a creek that flowed freely, making the watering hole for many 2- and 4-legged friends, as witnessed by the many tracks. Throughout the 10+ acres, we encountered this botanical marvel called moss, padding the walls of the creek and providing a carpet of emerald green ecosystem, engineering as one of the oldest living organisms on Earth. Moss is one of the most adaptive, self-reliant plants, and it grows without roots, flowers, or stems. Considered perfection in nature, its versatility and self-reliance make it a natural phenomenon. We thoroughly enjoy the beauty of this healthy eco-wonder and liken it to a natural emerald sculpture perfectly placed throughout the forest. The NLC was able to purchase 3 modest woodlots from a Mashpee tribal member last year. These are the woodlots in Mashpee. They are classified as unbuildable lots and landlocked for the most part. We purchased them to make a statement about our organization's values, both culturally and historically. Culturally, we consider all land as sacred, no matter the size, shape, or location. We also value the sanctity of the homes of other living things that dwell on those little lots, no matter the size, shape, wearing fur, feathers, scales, or shells. This general area was also very likely a former Wampanoag village or campsite. Historically, there are a couple of remarkable stories about woodlots in Mashpee. To read more about this history, including what is known as the Mashpee Indian Revolt and the Mashpee Wood Riot, you'll have to go to our website. And I was just trying to find a way to pull you in. So if you want to learn about that, you'll have to go check it out there. It's kind of a long story. We either own or are affiliated through conservation restrictions or cultural respect easements with land in Barnstable, Easton, Mashpee, Sandwich, Yarmouth, Dennis, Middleborough, Mattapoisett, Kingston, Dorchester, Pending and Aquina, Martha's, which is in Martha's Vineyard, and Alabama. We're actually down in Alabama. We were asked to go down and be the holder of a restriction there. So donating land for conservation. The act of donating land to Native Americans for conservation can be a profound and extraordinary, meaningful act. Donated land can become a habitat for wandering box turtles, quails, partridges, hawks, sweetgrass, and whippoorwills. The property you own could be an ancient Native American home site. Donating a portion of land can provide relief from an unexpected tax burden. NLC land holdings are protected in perpetuity. Giving land back to Indigenous people's care will send a powerful statement to those around us and our descendants. And this is programs that we have. We have UMass students that come for help us with stewardship. We also have internships and fellowships. I think we have 3 this summer. And Herring Run Restoration is another program. And membership, anyone who would like to be a membership can. It's 25 for individual a year and 40 for annual family. And you can either, we have this, which I don't really understand, this QR code. I've never used one of these, but I understand it makes it easier, but you can also go online and, you can sign up there. If you do become a member, you will receive updates in our newsletters, our seasonal newsletters. They're really good too. Okay, annual events. We organize our annual events to highlight Eastern woodlands Native American culture. We have a heron welcoming ceremony in April. We cannot take for granted that a species will always choose to live with us any length of time. Indigenous people have expressed gratitude for the coming and going of these fish for thousands of years. We organize the Heron Run cleanup, canoe trips and moccasin walks with the ancient trailways of the Nipmuc and Wampanoag territories. We host an annual membership meeting. If you signed up once a year, we all get together. And the Wampanoag Canoe Passage, it's a program, is a 90-mile trip that follows water routes throughout the southern part of the Wampanoag homelands. The Wampanoag Canoe of the Wampanoag homeland, These rivers were used by Wampanoag people for thousands of years, just as we use our interstate highways today. The trip is open to any and all interested, age 18 and over, with canoe experience. The journey can be accessed at different points if the entire route isn't possible. During the trip, we enjoy camping, fireside drumming, singing, sharing of Wampanoag history and cultural storytelling. In closing, I was asked to share what it means to me to be on the board of NLC. In the face of climate change, environmental devastation, and deep-rooted ideologies, we are facing complex challenges. Learning to live in respect and support of one another and the natural systems that support all life is not easy. Being on the board of Native Land Conservancy helps keep me focused on the importance of land rescue and stewardship. There's nothing that compares with a good walk in nature for the mind and spirit, for healing, for the practice of gratitude. I believe that the relationship humans have with the natural world will determine the continuation of life on Earth as we know it. It is all about this relationship. We protect what we love. Developing a caring interconnectedness with all life takes time and commitment. When this is fostered, the sense of separateness disappears. And I can tell you it does. Even when sometimes I get away from my roots a little bit, and I get too busy in the modern world. And just recently, I started a daily walk. I live on a path off of Santua Pond, and I did that walk every day. And I climb trees, because when I climb trees and I get up in a tree and I'm really quiet and I'm really silent, that's my place. That's where the separateness goes away. But you've got to be out there. You've got to develop a relationship. You have to spend time with something to have a relationship. And so, there's some elderly people that I've been talking with here. And so what they're doing is they're taking their chairs out somewhere in the woods or maybe in their yard, and they just do this part where you're still and you're quiet and you're just listening and you're watching and you're looking and if you do it long enough, you will begin to feel some familiarity. You really will. And if you do it long enough, the separateness will go away. But you have to make the commitment to do it. It doesn't just happen by itself. And if we don't do this, I don't know. We're at a tipping point now, folks. And we have to start caring a little bit more. about the earth and all life and ourselves, or we're not going to, it's not going to be around a long time if we don't make some big changes. Developing a caring interconnectedness with all life takes time and commitment. When this is fostered, that sense of separateness disappears. We can be the voice for justice for other animals, for the trees, other plants, the water, air, and soil, all life. We can be that voice. You have to, you need the desire. And once you have the desire, you need the commitment. So I'd like to end this with one of my favorite quotes from NLC founder and chair, Ramona Peters. We name ourselves after the land we live with, because not only are we breathing in, we are also drinking from the water that is flavored by that very land. Whatever is deposited in the soil is in the water, is in us. So we are all one thing. And we name ourselves after the place that is our nurturing, that sustains our life. And I'm going to tell you, I read this paragraph every day. I have this out on my desk and I read this every day. So if we can, some of us can find those things that inspire, that move us. Katapatush, thank you for this opportunity to share with you today. Let's thank you. And Erica, I don't know, I'm just going to ask this question. I cannot see who's here, only 5 people. I've got a little tiny gallery view. I don't know all of who is here, but if there are any natives that would like to speak, that have something they would like to say, would it be possible for them to raise their hand and give a short?
Yeah, so they can unmute themselves.
Okay. So maybe we could ask for that now. I don't know. I think John Peters is here. I think Astanamuk is here, but I don't know. I know they signed up. But I'm not putting anyone under pressure. If you want to speak to anything around the NLC or about nature, or culture, or traditions, please feel free to. Erica will be able to see your hand raised probably.
Okay, I can't, it's so long. It's almost like German Gestanamuk, as you say. Would
Yes.
like to speak?
Oh, great.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yep. Thank you, Gail. That was a great presentation, and I really hope to be in your presence one of these days. It's a long walk from New Brunswick, Canada, but one of these days I'll make it down.
Okay, that would be really nice. I've always wanted to meet you.
Actually, much of what you said, it just so resonates with me. I completely agree. If we spend that any significant amount of time with the land, I truly believe the land already knows us, but we don't know the land. And if we spend any amount of that time, I really agree with you that separateness will go away. But I really appreciate everything that you had said, and this Native Land Conservancy was really new to me until I been here. So I'm really thankful for your work and Nosta Pocket and many of the people that are on the board. Thank you so much. Inacheha.
Thank you.
And Gail Nixdorf, if you could take down your PowerPoint, it's been suggested we'd like to see each other now, Gail.
Oh. Did Gail have a question?
Not a question. I may be emailing you later. I would have been there in person, but I've moved to North Carolina, and I'm in the mountains in Asheville, and I presently own 4 1/3 acres of land, and I need to learn more about this piece of land's relationship to the indigenous people of the area. And I may be tapping into your wisdom when it comes to right use of the land and how I can share it. So I really appreciate your talk. I'm so sorry that I couldn't be there, but it is a bit of a hike. So good luck to you.
Yes,
You're
and we
doing
have each other's
amazing work.
email. We have
Okay.
each other's email still.
Yes, we do.
Okay.
Yes, we do. Thank you so much.
Questions?
I was wondering if there are any agricultural practices that are used in these rescued areas, like are like the traditional methods are used, or just that question. And also, are the like what I it would be good practices, I would say, like beekeeping and other practice that can be incorporated in these rescued areas. And I really like what you said about being a steward of the earth. Because I had a little bit of a conflict with the Genesis, no conflict, trying to understand Genesis, the creation part of Genesis in the Bible, that they use very harsh words that, you know, man should subdue, till the earth and all that stuff that I think is being reviewed now, that, you know, that like humankind was given all the power and authority to do whatever they wanted with the earth. So I think that's part of the problem, the interpretation of that relationship, that some people think God gave man. And so from what you just mentioned, the relationship from let's say from a Native American viewpoint is totally different. You are not dominating, controlling the earth. You are just, as you you mentioned that you are part of it, of the water, of the land, and so forth. So that was a part of my question.
So yeah, instead of using things for your own needs and to the point where you know, pollute and everything else, it really is about learning to live together and supporting each other. And I mean, we know a lot more. We know a lot about trees, a lot more than we did. I was fascinated with that hidden life of trees and the biochemistry and the kind of stuff that's going on, you know, with they're a community and they support each other.
That's
and so
right.
why can't we learn that? You know, we need to learn that. There's a lot of lessons in nature. There really are. And if you look for them, and I mean, I'm starting to write about what I'm seeing as far as lessons go. But I forget what, yeah. And I know that the times, you know, they really changed when this country was colonized. But I mean, you have to really have some reverence and some respect for the fact that natives, 12,000 years, did they ruin the earth? Did they? No. 12,000 years, they lived nicely with the earth. And, you know, kind of, you look at what's happened in the last 400 or 500 years, it's like, really? It only took that long for us to get to this place. What can we've got to do something about that. Not feel guilty about it, but just figure out a different way to have that relationship. You know, we need to do that. I think we all want to do that. But I can't remember. Oh, the other thing you were talking about, you know, when we go to our land, we're concerned about the invasive species. So we have to, you know, clean up some of that. And when we replace things, we want them to be native to the area. They want to be native plants. We just put some oak trees in that were the right kind of a white oak. They're native to this area. And of course, not using pesticides and not using all those terrible chemicals. I can't remember what your other questions were, but.
A little bit if the new, let's say, modern agricultural practice that are eco-friendly are incorporated into these rescued areas,
Yeah.
and all, just to give an example, like beekeeping is supposed to be very, for what I know, is supposed to be very beneficial to the whole environment, you know, for plants and trees and everything. So are those things considered when I'm assuming something is going to be produced in that area, or is I'm mistaken?
Yeah, I'm not really sure what's going on Cape Cod. I know some places that are starting to do more regenerative gardening and stuff like that. I think we're on the cusp of these things becoming more people doing more of this. More people are learning about it, and
thank you.
Ruis Swennerveld has a question. I can't hear.
I'm muted. Famous last words over the last few years. Thank you so much, Gail. This was really informative. And I wonder if there are other native land conservancies around, and how replicable this would be. I live in Vermont on Abenaki land, and I just wonder, of all of these things that you talked about, the cultural respect, the cultural access,
right,
and those sort of things, how replicable they would be in other places, or if you know of other land conservancies, native run, that could also add to this broader conversation.
Right. No, I'll have to ask around a little bit. But I think that, all different states know about these easements and conservation restrictions. So you might ask around, and there might be stuff going on where you are, and you're just surprised you didn't, maybe you didn't know about it.
Well, there are conservation easements all over, but they're not necessarily native conservation.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. Right.
Right. And the Abenaki have asked landowners to allow Abenaki natives to come on the land, but it's not the same as what you're talking about. It's not then protecting that access after a home is sold. It's just the kindness of the people who happen to be there now. And it's not a legal kind of document. So anything you can find out or know through other avenues that you might have, I'd really like to learn, because I'd like to bring it here if we can.
Okay. Yeah, and I have your email too, so I can hunt you down.
Great. And hi, Grove. You never know who you're going to see on these things.
Oh, hi, Grove. Are you coming to the healing walk next week?
I'm going to be healing my aunt in New Jersey. I'm sorry.
Okay, well, we will miss you. Did you have a question?
I'm going to look up the name. I made a donation this year to a native run project that that's in working with a larger national land trust, but it's in southeastern Massachusetts. So something that's a hybrid. So I guess I just want a little more information. I'll probably find on the website about the different kinds of donations that are welcomed and how those look. Because it just makes so much sense, this idea of respectfully acknowledging where land will be cared for in perpetuity. I don't have children, so I have an opportunity, and I'd like to learn more about that.
Thank you very much, Gail, for speaking. And obviously there's many connections that have been made today that will carry on behind the screen. So stay well, stay connected.
Thank you.